At some point in our lives, we've all watched an X-Men movie or TV show and thought, man, I wish I could grow sideburns. But like all good things, we eventually come to realize they aren't meant for us, and we have to settle for a 9 to 5 with a no mutton chops policy instead of facial hair, fighting crime, and women in latex. That was until Logan. Today, I'm going to be having a bit of a relapse into my old ways, looking at what makes Logan such a captivating character. Partially because Deadpool and Wolverine is about to launch, but mainly because Logan was. Let me think about this. Yeah, Logan was the first, if not the only, superhero movie that left me floored and feeling. Oh, what are they called? Emotions. I loved The Dark Knight. The Punisher series literally raised my testosterone to a point that I could grow leg hair. And Spider Man 2 almost makes me forget that there was a Spider Man 3. But none of them made me feel like I was watching something more than a superhero movie, excellent as they were. Now, why is that? How was it that the storytellers were able to take a 60-year-old comic book character and make something fresh but familiar? Why does it stand out amongst a sea of superhero movies despite its lack of interplanetary wars, downfall of empires, or, um, dazzling visual effects? Most importantly, for the three dudes and a lady that watch this channel for writing advice, how do you accomplish the same effect in your stories, twisting a trope into something new, whether it be a character or a genre? We're going to answer these questions by taking a look at Hugh Jackman, alias Logan, codename Wolverine, exploring how a character's backstory affects the main story moving forward, how to determine and then strike at the core of what makes a character human, and how to make one of the manliest Marvel characters of all time into one of the most tragically beautiful characters of the past decade. So glue on your fake sideburns and tape some pencils to your knuckles as we kick this list off with point number 1. Backstory, which provides answers and adds complexity. In a tightly squeezed nutshell, Logan was born James Howlett in the mid 1800s, discovering his ability to grow crochet needles out of his hands after his real father kills his surrogate father. Fast forward 100 years or so, Logan has fought in every major war and survived due to the nature of his mutation. This gets the attention of some nerds who use Logan's regenerative ability to make a superweapon without a conscience, but no structure is strong enough for Hugh Jackman's mutton chops, so he busts out. However, an adamantium bullet is enough to wipe out all of Logan's memories of being a science project, but not his charming demeanor or badassery. We then fast forward again through some stuff that doesn't matter for this video, and we find ourselves in 2029, where almost all mutants have been sterilized by corn syrup, or killed by Captain Jean-Luc Picard, leaving an old and tired Logan to contemplate the meaning of life in the desert with a dying Charles Xavier and a man so Polish, his pale skin leaves me feeling tanner than a 90-year-old Floridian. So now that I've pissed off a lot of die-hard X-Men fans for skimping over the history lesson, let's go into how this backstory affects our main character, gives him an internal wound, and makes the story heading forward so much more spectacular than just some guy and a kid running to Canada. By the events of Logan, our hero has been alive for almost 200 years. That's a lot of time to make mistakes, a lot of people to disappoint, a lot of friends to watch die, all while staying in incredible shape. But the point is that our hero's long and amazing life of invulnerability has led to regrets and a strong desire to not be a person any longer. We all know this feeling. It's called your birthday. Now, yes, this is great because it makes us sympathetic to our hero, but there's more to it than sympathizing with a character on the basis of depression, and this is one of the benefits of having a long-running story. We know Logan. Most audience members, whether die-hard X-Men fans or casual moviegoers, have seen Logan on the big screen for the past 20 years, and, in a creepy sort of way, developed a relationship with the character, understanding a lot of his struggle and loss over the course of his life. When we watch Logan attempt to pull out his claws, when we see that he still has Yoshida's sword on his wall, when he struggles to keep his sole remaining friend from the past alive, it has more emotional weight, because our memories as audience members are tied to these people and items as well. Think of this strategy like all your failed romantic relationships. It doesn't matter how good or bad they were. When you look back, there's an emotional attachment to those memories, even if she did slash your tires after cheating on you. And some of you are thinking, oh, that's great advice, Andrews. I'll just write a story for 20 years so that when the final chapter finally comes out, people will have emotional attachment to the hero. Dislike, unsubscribe. And sure, you can do that, but most of us don't have 20 years of mixed quality movies to waste away. That's James Cameron's job. Instead, no matter how long or short your story is, we want to look at relevant backstory that gives our hero motivation. It might not be the most uplifting motivation or the nicest goal, as is the case with Logan, but it allows the audience to understand why our hero wants what they want. Logan wants an end to his misery, and, after seeing everything he's lost over the past 200-ish years, we understand why. To apply this to your own stories, especially if you're starting off from scratch, don't worry so much about bogging down your introduction with backstory. It can work, as we see in The Last of Us, which is essentially Logan with zombies, but we can also use the hero's backstory to increase interest in a character moving forward with a story. Imagine having never seen an X-Men movie, or pretend that Logan was just a standalone film. You would wonder why Logan was trying to tear out his claws, why he'd given up hope on places like Eden, why he hated stories that were told about the early days of the X-Men and being viewed as a hero. Yeah, sure, the script or novel would have needed a few extra lines of dialogue in order to connect some dots, but you would still have a great end product, told in a much more compact package. Anyway, returning our focus to Logan, there is a negative to having a lot of backstory, and that brings us to point number 2. There are audience expectations for your hero, and you, as the storyteller, need to come up with something new while also working within these expectations. Every morning, I wake up, make my coffee, stare out the window thinking about my life, then hurriedly run to the bathroom when the coffee hits my bowels. That is the expectation I have for every morning. Now, something unexpected can happen which ruins that routine, like I could sleep through my alarm, be out of coffee, or shit my pants, or something unexpected can happen that makes the routine better. New coffee I've never tried, my cats actually let me pet them, or I don't wake up at all. When taking on a character as iconic as Logan, the Joker, or Harry Potter, it's a blessing and a curse. A lot of the legwork has been done for you, but you don't want to take the opportunity of a lifetime and run it through its normal paces. At the same time, you don't want to scrap the whole thing except for the name and do whatever you want to do because you're the writer. That's Disney's job. This means if we want to do justice to the character while also telling an original story, we've got to get new coffee. Well, I mean, make something new out of old parts. And fuck me if the writers for Logan didn't nail that daunting task. Not only did they conclude 6 decades of lore and character building, but they did it in a way that was captivating, emotional, and did what every ending should do: leave an audience wanting more. But what are the steps for taking a character blueprint and making a masterpiece? Well, let's go back to backstory. Logan has lived a long life, lost a lot of people. He's about to lose the last person he has left and is terrified of being alone with no purpose beyond suffering like this forever. We have a strong external want to buy a Sunseeker, give Charles a great last few days of life, and end his own story with an adamantium bullet that takes away all of his memories this time. But that's not a very compelling end for our Logan. He's been our buddy since first grade when that toddler put sand in our underwear so we hit him in the eye with our Wolverine action figure. He deserves a better send-off than that. So how do we give it to him? How do we give Logan something worth dying for?
Logan, this is Laura.
So, I'm going to say something that I cannot wait to have it be taken out of context. Here it goes. In storytelling, saving a child isn't the end-all be-all. Hell, saving your child isn't even necessarily the end-all be-all. Wild, right? Audiences are absolute sociopaths. Except for you guys, of course. Please subscribe. But for Logan, his internal need isn't just to accept his daughter. It's not exactly to protect his daughter either. His need is to remember the hero he's always been, despite all of the pain being that hero has caused him. To be that hero, he needs to care for his daughter, and in caring for his daughter, he needs to accept the possibility of losing her. This produces story irony, or what I like to call character duality, because I'm extra. Logan wants to be not Logan, but Logan needs to be the most Logan-y Logan he has ever been for his daughter. In a heavy-hitting story like this, we as audience members want the latter. We want the Wolverine. But at the same time, as presumably empathetic people, we also understand that Logan has earned a dirt nap. What the storytellers do is create a situation in which Logan can become the Wolverine one last time, not just because of some green super serum that Captain America said definitely wasn't steroids, but because he is given a final choice where he can choose to take the way out he so desperately desires, or he can save a bunch of kids running to his homeland of Canada. This is phenomenal storytelling because it allowed the writers an opportunity to write a story with a familiar Logan character, give him a compelling reason to quit fighting and leave it all behind, and give him an even greater reason to stick around and remain the hero he has always been. And here is the most counterintuitive part in all of this, especially if you're a newer storyteller. What we as audience members and what Logan as a story character needed in order to change wasn't something grandiose like saving the galaxy, or the planet, or even something as small as the state of Rhode Island. It was the life of his daughter, a girl he had only known for, like, 3 days. And this brings us to point number 3. If you want to tell an emotionally impactful story, the stakes need to be big for your character, but not necessarily for the world. Well, and I mean, I guess that's not entirely true. If your main character's child is also the savior of the world, that would doubly be impactful. But what I'm trying to say is that intimate character relationships are more important than abstract responsibilities. Let's go back to those other superhero movies I mentioned. So, look, I don't care about Gotham. Not even a little. If it's anything like New York City, let someone burn it down. But I do care about Bruce Wayne and how torn apart he is after Rachel's death. I don't care if a tiny sun burns through the world, but I do care about Peter Parker convincing a role model of his to end his life's work and, you know, himself. And sure, I love it when politicians get what they deserve, but I cared more about Frank Castle getting closure for his family than gouging a man's eyes out. With any story, superhero or otherwise, it's okay to have a big catastrophic reason to save the day. There's an atom bomb, Professor Doom rolls in, the upcoming presidential elections. But it comes second to the small reason to save the day. A child, your hero's family, their dog. And there are 2 reasons for this. 1. The world is just too big for us to conceptualize. It's like the number 1 trillion, or imagining your parents being proud of you. And 2, we've all had a friend or family member that has needed our support. We might not have always been the hero we wanted to be, but we can relate to the situation. In Logan, we see this storytelling strategy implemented with Laura and Charles. Logan wants to give his friend Charles a happy send-off, but Logan needs to be a hero for his daughter. Both character motivations are small, but intimate. Both pull at the Logan we've seen in previous iterations of the character. Either motivation, at first glance, seems to pull attention away from the other, meaning Logan can either keep Charles safe or take Laura on her fantasy trip to Eden, but not both. But finally, we see that, because of Laura, Charles enjoys his last few days alive. Because of Charles, Logan was forced to pursue his internal need to be a hero one last time. And because of Logan's need to be a hero for his daughter, he was given not only the release he wanted at story's start, but the release he deserved for being the Wolverine. In storytelling, whether it's a series, a long-running character, or a standalone story, your hero's journey is always the most important part of creating something emotionally impactful. Make sure to give your hero some backstory so that your audience understands their motivations. These motivations should be congruent with who your character is and, fundamentally, who they've always been. Finally, when fine-tuning what is at stake for your hero, remember that you can bet the entire galaxy on your hero, but it's more impactful for the thing at stake to be something intimate. Thank you guys so much for watching. Fingers crossed that Deadpool and Wolverine does justice for Logan. And until then, go write the best damn story possible. The end.